Norm's Bargain Barn, with locations in Shiloh and Fenton at the bottom of Gravois Bluffs. Visit normsbargainbarn.com.
That's normsbargainbarn.com.
This is the Verizon Extra Innings Show. Verizon, the most reliable 5G in St. Louis.
The 1-2 pitch for Jordan Walker with 2 outs in the ninth. Swing and a miss, and this ballgame has come to an end. The Orioles, for the first time this season, have won 3 in a row. 2 from Boston, and then 1 today from the Cardinals, 5-2.
Tough one for the Cardinals this afternoon. They just don't get a whole lot done from an offensive standpoint. Eric Fetty allows 5 runs, and they lose the series opener in Baltimore by a 5-2 score. Welcome into the Extra Innings Show. Just a real quick programming note for you. We are combining kind of the Extra Innings Show and the Redbird Rush Hour. So around 5:30 or so, Kevin Wheeler will jump on and we'll technically finish Extra Innings and we'll jump into Redbird Rush Hour. But either way, it's just a bunch of baseball and a bunch of Cardinals talk until 6 o'clock this evening. If you're watching on the stream on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, you don't have to do anything changing-wise. We'll just roll right from one to the next. But multiple ways to get connected with the program. You can call, you can text, you can tweet, you can leave a message. If you call or text, the phone number is 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. If you tweet at me, it's at Matt Pauley on air. And for those of you who are watching live on our video stream, just leave a comment in the chat, and we will respond to those as we move along. We do appreciate you being tuned in, especially here on a holiday, that we take the time to remember those who gave the greatest sacrifice for our country to allow us to be able to spend time with friends and family and watch and listen to baseball and barbecue and everything that goes along with it, being able to live in this country. Those freedoms would not exist without the people who fought for them, and we are so very appreciative to those people and their families and everybody, and I hope you have been able to take in a moment just a moment of opportunity to think about that as this holiday has moved along. All right, from a baseball perspective, they just don't do a lot offensively today. It was not their best played game. They commit 2 errors. The error there in the first inning certainly leads to a run. That's not the reason they lose, but it does lead to a run scoring. Eric Fetty was not especially sharp today. 5 innings, 5 runs, 3 earned on 7 hits. 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. Thought the bullpen did a good job. Nice to see Matt Swanson get an opportunity, and his ERA is down to 2.35. I thought Gordon Graceffo looked good, able to work around a runner on first and second, no out situation without anybody scoring. Cardinals kind of get back in it with that home run in the 5th inning when Pedro Paez hits a 2-run home run, and that was good. It made things a little bit more interesting in the final few innings. But overall, this was not the Cardinals' best effort. They've been playing great baseball, and they lose this one today. And they might be catching. This is what kind of worry. If you've been listening to me talk for the past 2 weeks as I've been looking ahead on the schedule for the Cardinals, what worried me was at some point Baltimore was going to have a little bit of a run because they're better than their record indicates. I don't think they're a really good team, but I think they're a lot better than their record would indicate. And they just won 2 against Boston. Now, this is their first 3-game win streak. I just didn't want the Cardinals to hit them at a bad time. They might be, but I just didn't. We'll see. We'll see what happens over the next 2 days against them. But I'm always concerned when you play a team that is underachieving, because at any moment they can kind of find themselves a little bit. And hey, give credit to Charlie Morton. Morton's a veteran. He had terrible numbers coming in, but he's done it before, and he gets his first win of the year. Looked really good in his 6 innings. The Cardinals, for them to win this game, as Oliver Marmol talked about in his post-game press conference, they really needed to find a way to get him out early and get to that bullpen, which was taxed. They were unable to do it, and that's really the story of the game. The Extra Innings Show is being presented by Graybar. Graybar is your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. Let's get to some of the various messages that are coming in as we go along on this one. Got a text message from the 618. Says, this is why the Cardinals are in second place. Can't beat the team with worse records. They seem to do better against teams better than them. I don't think you're watching this team. Now, have they done well against good teams? Yeah, they have. But here recently, have they done well against not so good teams? Yeah, They have. That's where, like, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about when you say that, because when you look at what they have done recently, when they've faced off against not so great teams, they've won for the most part. Kansas City, they're above 500. They're not a great team. They won 2 out of 3. Washington's not a good team. They swept them. Pittsburgh's a terrible team. They swept them. Cincinnati's not a very good team. They took 2 out of 3 from them. No, they split a 4-game series with them. Excuse me. So to me, did they lose a series against Pittsburgh earlier this year on April 7th, 8th, and 9th? Yeah, they did. But if you're judging, did they lose a series against the Angels at the end of March? Yeah, they did. But if you're judging the St. Louis Cardinals on May 26th, based upon something that they were doing in early April, when we've seen what has happened with this team in the last month or so, I just don't think you're paying attention. So I would push back as strongly as you can push back on that statement, because I think the Cardinals are having a lot of success against teams that are not good. Let me rephrase that. I don't think they're having a lot of success. I know they're having a lot of success because I know the difference between a W and an L. And they've won a lot of games against not so good teams recently. So I'm just not I'm not totally sure what you are trying to say, but I would push back on that. Text message from another 618 says, I think this is the wake-up call on the not-so-good Orioles. They can play ball. I think Baltimore will take this one. So, again, I've said it all week long that this series worried me because I don't think the Orioles are a good team, but I think they're better than their record. And anytime you face off against teams like that, especially when they've made managerial changes and things like that, yeah, just kind of it does concern me a little bit. That same texter says, a good rest, a better day tomorrow, and it's just one game. I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm really not. It's going to sound like one. It's not an excuse. Like, playing day games is not the worst thing in the world, but back-to-back day games, travel, another day game, that's just, it kind of takes you out of your rhythm a little bit, and that impacts you. I'm not saying that's why they lost the game. Don't put words in my mouth here. But it was not the greatest possible situation for them to be playing the back-to-back day games with travel on one of them without any days off. So let's see what they do over the next couple days. 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. That's how you call. That's how you text. You can tweet at me, at Matt Pauley on air. We'll do the extra inning show for about 10 more minutes, and then we'll jump right into Redbird Rush Hour. That's going to begin at about 5:30. Don't go anywhere as we continue on. This is the extra inning show on KMOX.
You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services does that.
Now, back to the Verizon Extra Inning Show.
We're back at it as the Cardinals lose today. They end up falling to Baltimore by a 5-2 score. Welcome back in. If you want to comment on this game, you can do so multiple ways to get connected. You can call or text 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900, or tweet at me at Matt Pauley on air. Text message from the 573 says, how do the Cardinals only score 2 runs against Charlie Morton, who came in at 0-7? That's inexcusable. It's not inexcusable. Now, would have I liked for them to have a little bit more success against Morton than they had? Yeah, absolutely. And Oliver, let's quote Oliver Marmol here, or at least paraphrase Oliver Marmol here. If you listen to what he said in postgame, he pretty much said the reason they lost this game was they allowed Morton to settle in and pitch some length because they never really got after a bullpen that was very tired. If Baltimore would have had to go to their bullpen early today, they probably would have been in some trouble. So by allowing Morton to go 6, that really set up Baltimore to be able to have success in this game. But first off, let's not forget who Charlie Morton is. He's pitched for a really long time and has had a lot of success. And oh yeah, by the way, he's having success here recently. Now, I mean, to be fair, he's been mostly working out of the bullpen recently, but he's also been working out of the bullpen and giving length recently, not 6-inning length, but like 3+, 4 so innings length. And in the month of May, he's got a 3.98 ERA. So you stay focused on that 7+ ERA coming into this game. Well, in the month, he had about a 4 ERA. Like, that's nothing to write home about, but it's a whole lot different from a guy who's got a 7. And what was the ERA coming in afterwards? It's 7.09. His ERA entering the game today, it was not good. Let's bring up those game notes. His ERA entering was 7.68. So he lowered his ERA from 7.09 to 7.68. But again, the answer to the question is he's been pitching better recently. Had about 4 ERA in the month of May. You're not going to an all-star game on that, but you can be just fine. So I think folks are making too much of the fact that Charlie Morton beat you. That's it's baseball. So yeah. Text message from, you know what? I'm gonna save some of these for when Kevin joins us at 5:30 because I think I'd like to talk them over with Kevin. Somebody asked about the Nolan Gorman experiment and if it is over yet. Funny, he led the team in terms of number of hits today, but I want to address that with Kevin. So hang tight after 5:30 when we get rolling with the Redbird rush hour, and we'll touch on that just a little bit more. Text message 314 says, I agree the schedule and the travel in this early game played a part in the loss. They did not play their normal game today. My guess is nobody got a whole lot of sleep last night. It's been a very exciting team to watch play, and defensive mistakes are not the norm. Yeah, again, I always like pause when I go this because I don't want to give built-in excuses. But I do think, the human body like works on kind of a schedule and a routine and everything. And when all of a sudden you're playing a bunch of day games, it just feels a little bit off. And then all of a sudden you play the day games and then you're traveling and everything. Now, to be fair, Baltimore was kind of they were largely in the same spot in what they've had recently. So this was not a Cardinals thing. The Orioles were in Boston yesterday playing a game. A little bit less travel, but getting on a plane and going through all that. If you're traveling from St. Louis to Baltimore, Boston to Baltimore, while the flight time might be a little bit less going from Boston to Baltimore, outside of that, it's still everything that goes along with it. So Baltimore was largely playing with the same type of situation. I don't want to use that as a mistake or as an excuse for what's going on. But yeah, I think it's part of it. I think it's going to be good for this team to get back onto the normal rhythm and the normal schedule of what they do. And once you get to that, it's going to be a little better. Henry sends in a message on the video, says this team is exciting to watch. Like you said, tough travel day after a day game. We're going to lose some more games this season. One loss is not the end of the world. I agree, Henry, 100%. Jay says, show no mercy, Matt. No excuses. Again, not making excuses, just talking through the situation that they're dealing with. I think I'm being very fair about it. Baltimore was dealing with the same thing. That doesn't give the Cardinals a free pass, but they didn't play well. They had a lot of stuff going on. It was the day game, travel, day game. That's always tough. Let's see how they are going to look over the next few days or so. What's on Deck is presented by Chesterfield Fence and Deck. The sign you have the very best, chesterfieldfence.com. So two things are on deck. One thing is Redbird Rush Hour is on deck in just a few moments, where Kevin Wheeler is going to hop in and he'll join the conversation. And some of these messages that we have gotten, I'm going to hold off until Kevin gets here, because I want to talk through those with him. So we'll do that. So that's one thing that's on deck. The more important thing that's on deck is game number 2 of this series coming up tomorrow evening, as the Cardinals are going to send Andre Palante to the mound. 4-3, 4.18 ERA. That's going to be a 5:35 first pitch tomorrow. and that means our coverage is going to begin at 4:40. All right, so this is technically the end of the Extra Innings Show. Extra Innings Show has been presented by Graybar. Graybar is your distributor for electrical and datacom needs, but don't you dare go anywhere because the Redbird Rush Hour, it starts in just a moment or so as we roll on with our Cardinals coverage right here on the home of the Cardinals, 104.1 FM KMOX.
This is Tom Ackerman. Like a Hall of Fame talent, an MVP, Chesterfield Fence and Deck has been going for 57 years strong now. A lot of happy customers. They've done a wonderful job for the St. Louis metro area when it comes to patios, sunrooms, pergolas, fences, decks, you name it.
Yeah, what time? When are we going?
48 months interest-free financing on your next outdoor project, chesterfieldfence.com.
Now, 90 and 60. A look back at the latest St. Louis City SC match. Presented by Woods Bay.
Traffic, and the latest on the Redbirds. This is the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
Coming up on 5:30 at KMOX. That's Kevin Wheeler. I'm Matt Pauley. We are continuing our Cardinals coverage. We have you for another half hour as we take you to 6 o'clock as we transition from the Extra Innings Show into the Redbird Rush Hour. And here we are. It's really the Redbird Rush half hour today. Kevin, good to see you. Glad that we're able to do this for a half hour.
Yeah, glad we can talk some ball on Memorial Day. And, I can't stand that this is such a terrible loss, Matt, that the season's over. You're not allowed to have games like this. It's impossible. We got fans on the chat who obviously haven't followed baseball their entire lives. Because over 162, you're not supposed to win games like this. Walt, it's okay, Walt. You're going to be fine. Jay, you're going to be fine, buddy. It's all good. A couple bad games here and there is not a big deal, and you can chill. It's okay. And by the way, to anybody that, and I'm just teasing you guys, but if you feel that way about baseball, do you feel that way about yourself? Do you give yourself no losses ever? Ever? Come on now.
I take losses.
Can you tell I've been
day.
sitting around all day?
I have an 11-month-old. My job is to take losses on an every single day basis. Walt there says worst game of the year from a viewer's perspective. No energy, sleptwalk through the entire game. Then he says that, Kevin, you are indeed going to say you got to expect a game like this every now and then. He says, no, I don't. So you don't have to, I think expecting it. And
yes, you should expect it, but you don't have to accept it.
Yeah. You can expect it. You don't have to accept it. That should be like a t-shirt.
Yeah. Honestly, God, I wish I was wearing that. We should pass that along to Ollie because that sounds like a manager talk thing, doesn't it?
It does.
You're
going to have these
things
over the course of the year. And I mentioned that, I don't know how much you heard of the Extra Innings Show, Kevin. This is not an excuse, but it is a fact. It's a matter of fact. They just played 3 straight day games, and there was a travel day in between there. Like, if there is a day for you to, as Walt says, maybe sleepwalk through it or not put your best effort, today might just be that day.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm the first on the board of when you play a lot of games, you're going to have bad games. I mean, the Dodgers have had bad games this year. Everybody in the league has games where they look like they don't have any energy. They stink. It's frustrating, right? It's frustrating to lose to Charlie Morton when he comes into the game with an 8 ERA and barely hanging on to his major league career at this point. Like, yeah, that's frustrating, but it happens. It happens all across the sport. And I can promise you that there are teams here in the last 4 or 5 weeks and games the last 4 or 5 weeks where the Cardinals pulled a game out and the other team's fans felt the same way. They looked like they didn't have any energy. And They didn't come out to play, and you can't have those losses. I guarantee you it's happened, and that's just normal baseball. But if we want to get into, the individual things, like the specific things that are not okay, like it's not okay to let Charlie Morton shut your lights out for 6 innings when he's been brutal all season long. It's not okay.
Let me stop you there for a second. Morton hasn't been good this year, but to give him a little bit of credit, he had about a 10 ERA after his first 4 or 5 starts, got yanked from the rotation, went in the bullpen. He's had about a 4 ERA over his last month. So he went from being terrible to not good, but his major league career hasn't been at the, on the exit ramp over the last month or so. He's pitched okay out of the bullpen here recently.
I mean, his fastball run value is bottom 3% in baseball. His breaking ball's bottom 2%. I mean, there's not a lot there. He doesn't throw 96 like he used to. Again, I get that it happens. I'm not. This is not bagging on the team, but this is if we're going to talk about what went wrong and where you need to be better. You need to beat Charlie Morton, right? Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be what this team wants to be, and this is not knocking anything, Matt. I mean, this team has played great baseball for 5 weeks. You're 6 games over 500. At one point, you were 5 games under 500. You were 9-14, and now you're looking at 30-24. I'm not good at math, but that sounds like 21-10. And last I checked, that's great baseball, but it's not been the whole season. Yeah, it's not been the whole season. It's been this 4 or 5 week stretch.
Yeah, it's and Steve mentions this, and we haven't really even talked Dylan Carlson since we've gotten done with this. 2 hits, hits the 3-run home run. I mean,
Steals
that felt good for him. Yeah,
he was loving that. I mean,
he was fired up.
And also, if we want to, again, mostly tongue in cheek here, mostly. But if we're going to let anything be that's not okay, you literally know every Dylan Carlson weakness. You know every one of his weaknesses, and you let him go 2 for 3 with a bomb and a steal. I mean, again, I get that it happens. This is not being hardcore, but and I think the best thing we can say today is the offense should be better against Charlie Morton, even if we don't think they should score 5 or 6 runs, which may be unacceptable. 6 base runners in 6 innings ain't enough. That's against a guy that's been struggling. That's not very much. He only needed 86 pitches to get through 6. Now, I think you make a good point that, you've had a schedule that's a little weird lately, and getting back to a normal routine will probably help. But mostly, I just don't think we have to overanalyze. No. It's a bad game. I mean, they came out dead. They didn't swing the bats. You had 3 guys have big strikeout days. Newt struck out 3 times. Contreras struck out twice. Walker struck out 3 times. It's just a lump of a game. But the point of what we've seen lately, and by lately, again, going back to what would you say, Matt? I don't know, the good play started probably April 25th or 6th, somewhere in there. It was right after those series in New York and Atlanta where they started picking it up. And ever since then, you haven't let too many of these linger back to back, right? You've only lost back-to-back games once since the start of May. Since the first 2 days of May. You lost May 1st and 2nd, and only once since then. So we haven't seen a lot of this lingering. If it starts to linger, then we'll have our complaints. And Jay, stop it. Stop it, Jay. It's good baseball, not great baseball. We're not talking about the entirety of the season, dude. When you go 21-10, that's like 110 win pace. That's great baseball. The overall season, 6 games over, is really good. It's really good. If we're going to give a letter grade, Matt, it's an A-, B+.
It is. Yeah, it's an A for sure. Cardinals have won 16 of the last 20, now 16 of the last 21, dating back to May 4th. That trails only the Twins for the best record in baseball during that time span.
And again, we can do 2 things at once.
That's great.
Right? Yeah. We can do 2 things at once. We can say that the beginning of the year wasn't good enough, which we talked about endlessly during that time. We literally talked about that nonstop for the first month of the season. Since then, though, it has been great. The problem is the balance of the 2 doesn't equal great. The balance of the 2, though, does equal good. 6 games over 500 before June is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can argue whatever you want about first place, second place. There's no such thing as a division winner in late May. It doesn't happen. All that matters for this team is where are you at the end? And if it'll either be good enough or it won't. And if it's not, guess what we'll be talking about going into the offseason? We'll be talking about all the things that need to be better.
Wanted to wait for you to get this text message in. This came in during the extra inning show, but I think it creates an interesting conversation. And from the 217, they wrote, is the Nolan Gorman experiment over? And if so, what is his trade value? I've got a couple things on this, Kevin. So first off, tough air in the first inning, leads to a run, could have turned a double play. But he's the only guy who has 2 hits today. So if we're trying to judge him just on the game, he commits the error. He also gets 2 hits. But I also think it's worth kind of noting what's going on with Jordan Walker here, because Walker didn't have a great let's go to a hypothetical situation of what we've seen from Walker over the last week is actually going to turn into him being able to continue to move forward and get better and be a guy that you feel comfortable with. They've been going back to the runway term. They've been able to give Walker that runway, that playing time, and they're hoping that that's going to result in him getting going. And maybe that's what's happening right now. Maybe it's not. The jury is still out. With Gorman, it's so much tougher because they haven't given him that opportunity. So it's 2 very different things. Walker has been given much more of an opportunity, and we're starting to see some things from him. Gorman's been given very little opportunity. So when somebody asks, is the experiment over? I would argue, well, at least for this season, the experiment hasn't even started.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would call it an experiment. I mean, again, this is a guy that has a 27 home run season under his belt. It's not an experiment to try to let a younger player play through struggles. The problem that Gorman has, unlike Walker, is the Cardinals have way too many guys that play the spots that he plays. I mean, that really ends up being the problem, right? I mean, Arenado plays almost every day. He got the day off today, but he plays almost every day. Brendan Donovan plays every day, no matter what. And then you're talking about, okay, with Herrera being the DH, that means if you're going to play Burleson's got to play the outfield. So that means Donovan's got to play second, right? So as you walk through all of this, it's a little bit harder. It's a little more cluttered. And then longer term, it's even more cluttered because at some point, Weatherholt's going to be in this conversation. And I would say that at the current rate, you'll probably have to see a change of scenery for Gorman unless you're able to move Arenado and free up another spot. But even then, how much do you want to repeat the same thing as this year? Like if this year doesn't give you any sign of change, then you have to move. And then the scary part is, what if he goes somewhere else and they fix him? And then everybody gets to yell at the team because they couldn't fix him. And that'd be a fair criticism, by the way. If you can't get him right and he goes somewhere else and gets right, that's a bit of a problem. But yeah, I don't know if it's over because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, if a guy or two ends up on the injured list, he might get that extended run and we may see a different guy or we may see the same thing. But with Walker, it's funny because, Matt, their numbers are identical.
Yeah.
They're statistically the same guy. 264 on base for Walker, 287 for Gorman, 293 slug for Walker, 282 slug for Gorman. I mean, they're OPS almost identical.
It's just looked better for Walker recently.
Well, but I mean, it shows you how much worse it was before that.
Yeah.
Right. But for the sum total, but I understand Walker's the younger player and he plays a position where they are less crowded long-term. Although you could argue, actually we're seeing it. Like there are going to be days where both Walker and Gorman are out. If you're going to play Burleson and Herrera and Donovan and Nootbaar and all that, if you're going to play your normal full lineup, those 2 guys are probably out.
Steve says I don't even think I have to respond to that. It's obvious. Like there's no other way to do it. Yeah. If Burleson is in and everybody else that's part of your standard lineup is in, then there is no room for Walker in the lineup. Steve says
Gorman.
Or Gorman. Keep playing Gorman. Don't give up yet. However, he probably doesn't have much trade value. You get someone else's unproductive young player. I hate going down this path already. He would have a little bit of trade value because teams are going to be enticed by the sheer power that he has, but you would also be selling low on him at this point.
I mean, what did you get for Tyler O'Neill?
A guy that you moved on from.
You got a reliever that you basically,
yeah.
You got a reliever that you didn't even keep.
Was that a 1-for-1?
Yeah. And you're going to.
What was that guy's name?
I forget, but you're also going to get some salary relief too, with Tyler O'Neill, right? But the biggest difference is Gorman's a lot younger. You'll get more for Gorman, but that's an example of what it looks like to trade when a player's value is as low as it's going to be. You know, for O'Neill, it's always been injuries, right? He gets hurt so much that teams didn't trust him. and he was a year away from free agency, so you weren't exactly, Gorman's a long way from free agency, and he's only 24. I got to believe that any one of the bottom-level teams, whether it's the Marlins, the Pirates, the White Sox, those teams would love that player because he's got a skill set that it's hard for them to find on the cheap. But again, you're not getting a top 5 or 10 prospect from them, and you're probably not getting a major league. Maybe you get a reliever. Maybe you get somebody to help in the bullpen if you're going to make that kind of move in season, off season, if there's some creativity around it. I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to sell low. I mean, that's why you didn't want to trade at the end of last year, because you're selling low. And if you do it 2 years in a row, Matt, do you think that you kind of have to do something? Because like Weatherholt's at Double-A and doing really well. By this time next year, if he's not in the big leagues, he's knocking on the door. And with the players you already have, they're just, you can't keep it this way going into next year. Something in the mix has to change. And maybe it's Gorman, maybe it's somebody else.
I think this is the year that Gorman had to prove that he could be part of the team moving forward. And there's still time for him to prove that, but I don't think it extends much beyond this. Our producer, by the way, Kyle Sixter, reminds us that it was Nick Robertson who came in for Tyler Neal. So looked okay at times during spring, but obviously didn't make the club, and we never saw him after that. If Nolan Gorman, Kevin, goes on, it gets traded and becomes that 30-plus home run guy for another team. But at the same time, J.J. Weatherholt arrives and is a dude, and you got him and Mason Wynn on the infield.
Donovan.
Like, I'm not going to be bothered by it.
No, I don't think too many are. But you know how teams are, though. Teams don't want to look that. But then think about the dynamic this offseason, though. The guy to trade him is Chaim Bloom, because that's not his guy. He didn't draft him. He wasn't there for the development of him. It's a lot easier for a new person to say, all right, that's not part of my plan moving forward. And it's a little harder for the people that drafted him, kept him, held on to him, didn't trade him in other deals or whatever. It's a little harder because you have some attachment and you have skin in the game. I mean, this happens look at the team you're playing. Baltimore had this same kind of issue this offseason. They had so many young guys, they didn't want to trade any of them to get pitching, and they held on to them all, and now it's blowing up in their faces, and those guys aren't performing either. So, this isn't just a Cardinals thing. This happens, but it's easier for a new guy to move on than the person that's been in charge all along.
If you want to join us, you can text in at 314-436-7900. You can leave a message on the video chat if you are watching us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. It's the Redbird Rush Hour. We'll take a break, and we'll come back with more in just a moment right here on KMOX.
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers
Xfinity, Fubo, and more. Visit Cardinals.com/TV to learn more.
This is the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Just a few minutes left of this edition of the Redbird Rush Hour, and really savor these final few minutes of the program because you're not going to get it for the next 2 days. We've got early baseball the next 2 days. So, Kevin, we're not going to be able to sit and talk baseball on the air. We'll still do it.
Right. I mean, we'll be in the sports office doing that because that's what we do.
Yes.
But, yeah, we won't have anything going on here because obviously you'll be in pregame. By that time, by the time we would be on the air. And of course, these next 2 days, these 2 days are really early. I didn't realize Baltimore starts that early. 5:35, huh?
Yeah. So 4:40 for the pregame the next 2 days.
Man.
And yeah,
we're going to be heartbroken on DGS.
Yeah. You guys never like starting late or ending early. That is something that you just never go for. It's funny though, because you guys joke about like when you do start late because of a game, you want to start late, and then you guys just stand around going, well, when are we going to start?
Starting late's not that fun. Leaving early's fun. Starting late, I'm doing the same thing either way. Let's be honest. I'm watching the ball game either way. Doesn't really matter whether I'm watching it here or at the station. I'm watching the Cardinals game, so it doesn't really do much one way or the other to me as far as damage to the schedule. I'd be sitting there watching either way.
There you go. We'll have a replay of the Gas House game coming up at 6 o'clock in the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to start into a CBS News special for Memorial Day. So
Great.
you can, that's the programming schedule tonight here on KMOX. Cardinals lose today. They fall to Baltimore by a 5-2 score. Kevin, one thing that did happen in this game that really I was happy about was what we saw from the bullpen. And nothing against John King. Like, he's not really part of this equation for me. I thought Matt Swanson looks good, and now he's got a 2.35 ERA this year in his big league time. And Gordon Graceffo strikes out a couple dudes after not pitching for about a week. As you continue to look towards some of these young guys and getting better, I thought what we saw today was good.
Look, these are the ways that they get their opportunities. They're not going to get a lot of these opportunities when you're ahead 2 or 3 runs. You're going to get them when you're up 4+ or when you're down. And the best that these guys can do is go out there and continue to make strong showings. And for Swanson, I mean, he's really only had one shaky game, right?
Yeah. Only one game where he's even given up runs.
Yeah, he had the game in Cincinnati. So this now gives him 5 out of 6 outings where he's really good. And you wonder when he's going to be able to work his way further into the circle of trust. And I'm not suggesting it should be now. There's a little bit, he's got to do a little bit more, but he's striking people out. He's throwing hard. He's throwing a lot harder than the report said he would when he was a minor leaguer. So he's gained a couple miles an hour since we got maybe a year ago when he was kind of first burst out of the scene. He was like 94, 95. We're now seeing 96, 97 from him. So I don't know when that would be. It'd have to be some point. But boy, if you could have one other guy emerge, whether it's him or Graceffo, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, at some point, this team is, the bullpen is going to be taxed, and there's going to be a bunch of guys who aren't available, and they're going to be up by a run in the 8th or 9th inning, and Swanson's going to be the only guy that's available, and then he's going to get that chance, and he can either have success with it or not have success with it. And if he has success with it, you move forward. That's kind of what happened with Ryan Fernandez last year. And by the way, have you seen Fernandez with what he's been doing at Memphis lately? He looks completely different. It's been really good for him lately.
That's good because he stunk for a while. But like down there, when you stink, it's because you're clearly working on something. He clearly went down there with one thing in mind, and that was to get his delivery on point so that he could deliver the slider in an effective way. Because without the slider, I'm not saying helpless because he's got a good fastball, but a one pitch guy in those settings isn't going to be all right.
Yeah, it's the numbers on the slider recently have been especially good, and so the slider right now at AAA, he has a 56% whiff rate on it.
Good.
That's good.
That's what he needs. Yeah. I mean, that was his key pitch last year, and we saw this year the shape of it changed. I don't think that was intentional.
No,
I don't think that was intentional because you wouldn't change something that was successful. But the shape of it changed. The velocity changed a little bit, probably because of that. And now they're trying to get it back to where it was. And it sounds like they are, because that's what he got at the big leagues last year. He got a lot of swings and misses with it.
I would suspect that if it gets to a point where they have to make another bullpen move, that he's probably the next guy up. I think he's done enough here recently. Yeah, and if he can get there and be the guy he was last year, that adds something to it as well. And there's always going to be need for relief pitchers. We've talked about it a lot, that if this team happens to be still in it at the trade deadline, that relief pitching is probably something that they could look to. But a lot of things are happening right now from a positive standpoint when it comes to pitching. Seeing what's going on with Fernandez, Quinn Matthews looked really, really good yesterday pitching for Palm Beach. Tink Hintz is back pitching. So it wasn't that long ago that none of those guys were doing anything, and now all of a sudden you're starting to see that a little bit more. And I still think we're likely to see Quinn Matthews at the big league level before the season ends.
It's all about health, right? I mean, the most important thing of his recent outings is that he feels good when he comes out of it. And I'm sure after this last one, I'm guessing he'll be back at AAA for his next start. You would think rehab is kind of over when you can go 5 strong innings. Typically, what they want to see is, can you run your pitch count up, and then do you recover well? So if he recovers well, I would guess he'd be back at Memphis soon, which, does put him in that conversation for later in the year. And he's definitely in the conversation for next year, because you're going to have spots in the rotation open.
It also, the thing that really scares me right now, we've talked about this a ton. I'm not trying to go back on stuff, but the lack of starting pitching depth right now. There's basically one guy in the minor leagues who you can trust to call up and make a start, and that's Michael McGreevy. I really wanted to get to a point where if something freak happens and you lose 2 guys in 1 week, you would have a plan. And you would have a plan with McGreevy, but if Matthews is up there and you feel comfortable enough with him, you would have a plan there as well. This isn't going to be the year where you have 14 different starting pitchers. They just don't have that available. Well, if it is, something's gone terribly, terribly wrong and you don't have a very good record. But if they can just add a little bit of depth in terms of what they have in case they do need starting pitching, I think that would be something that would make a lot of people breathe a little easier.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel pretty good about what McGreevy's going to give you. We don't know exactly what it looks like, but I think he's a guy that'll come up and keep you in games at minimum. And, what we've seen so far is he's a guy that can come up and win games. But even if he's not that, I feel pretty good about him. I do have some concerns about this current rotation. They've gone well for a while now, but Fedde has been as much bad as good this year. Mm-hmm. Michaelis was bad beginning, good lately. Which one is he? Or is he going to find a happy medium? There's still questions to me on, what we're going to see on a regular basis from Palante. It's, again, been better lately, but it was rough there for a while. I feel pretty good about Sonny. Feel really good about Liberatore. Isn't it great that Liberatore is the guy that feels the best right now when you see him pitching? Like, that's the guy. I mean, that's your dude right now. Sonny's not been bad. He's just older, so there's kind of a little worry there.
And if it's a road game with Sonny, you go, which version are you going to see on the road? There's nothing with that with Liberatore right now.
That's what it'll be Saturday in Texas, road game.
Yeah. That's Kevin Wheeler. I'm Matt Pauley. Kevin, thanks for hopping on for a little while here.
Good times, buddy. We'll talk tomorrow at some point, probably off the air, though.
Yeah, probably. It's an abbreviated edition of the Redbird Rush Hour. That's Kevin Wheeler. I'm Matt Pauley again. Coming up next, we've got a replay of the Gas House Gang from earlier today. That's Chris Ranji and Tom Ackerman. And then we've got some special programming for Memorial Day from CBS News. That'll begin after that right here on KMOX.
Start your summer with a weekend showdown. Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers